All right, so quick video this morning. Thank you if you responded to my video from yesterday. I got a lot of really positive feedback about that, and I hope that more people see it. So share it with your friends, comment, all that kind of stuff to get it a little bit more traction. This video is a continuation of that because I want to prepare you if you're going to fight in the SBC or anywhere. You're going to get a certain amount of this kind of response. So we'll talk about that in a minute. Let me also say this. A number of you have been purchasing books anonymously for someone, in your life, whether it's an ex-pastor or a local pastor or someone that that's kind of been dabbling with some of this woke church stuff. I'm absolutely happy to send books as a gift that you purchase for somebody else anonymously. That's something that I'll definitely do. So if you have anyone in your life that you'd like to do that for, reach out to me, hit me up at ad@adrobles.com, and let me know that you want me to send a book to somebody that's not yourself, and we'll figure out how to get that done. Anyway, so yeah, yesterday's video, basically my point was that the SBC has gone liberal, and if it was me, I wouldn't stay and fight it out because it's really not worth it to me. There's no real reason to do it. I think that leaving and forming your own thing is probably going to be a lot more effective. But whatever, if you disagree with me, that's fine. But what I talked about in that video was that, with friends like these conservatives, who needs enemies? Because the conservatives are often just liberals in disguise, or even if they're not liberals in disguise, they don't do anything, so they might as well be liberals. Like, they're not willing to fight. They think it's bad to fight. They think it's horrible, and we just get along, unity, all that kind of stuff. So that's like 90%. That covers like 90% of the SBC. So it's like, with friends like that, who needs enemies? Anyway, somebody responded to me, and this is a response you need to prepare for. You should have some prepackaged stuff ready for this response because this is very common amongst conservatives. Conservatives that don't want to fight, conservatives that think it's wrong to fight, and this is something you need to prepare for. So here's what the response is. It says this. He says, AD, as a believer who is not part of the SBC, I would just like to say you guys need to air your dirty laundry somewhere other than in public. If you have issues, work them out amongst yourselves. If you want to speak out against critical theory, do so, but don't drag your conference through the mud. Use Matthew 18 principles. You are not honoring the Lord, and your contention is harming your Christian testimony. I'm not saying to brush your problems under the rug. You definitely have things to take issue with, but this is not the platform to do it. This is very common. So this is not, if you know who said this, no need to pile on this guy. This guy is in the majority. Majority of people have this perspective where if you get hit, you can't hit back, otherwise you're dishonoring the Lord, right? Because here's the reality. I actually agree with this in theory, because what would have been better if the SBC thinks that everybody and their mother's racist, if the SBC thinks everyone and their mother's a sexist and is covering up sex abuse and stuff like that? The ideal thing would have been to handle that person to person. Like, Russell Moore should have got his little big boy pants on and confronted the racist to their face. And then if nobody repented, you bring someone with you to confront the racist. And then if nobody repented, you bring it to the church and it gets exposed. That's actually part of the steps of church discipline. It does have to be exposed at some point. But you see, here's the reality, though. So the people from the social justice perspective, they typically skip all the steps of church discipline. They just go right for exposing. This is the problem that we're dealing with. So it's like, yes, we should follow Matthew 18, obviously. Yes, we should have, a procedure and a process for these kinds of accusations. You think someone's racist, you think someone covered up sex abuse, you should go to the police if you think someone covered up sex abuse. Matthew 18 is something I quote all the time, right? But the problem arises is when somebody doesn't follow Matthew 18 and they go straight to, hey, Mike Stone's a racist, right? And it's like, okay. So now you've broken covenant. You've decided, we're both Christians here, but you've decided to do this in a non-Christian way. By the way, this happens all the time. And so now the person on the defensive has a choice to make. They can either, accept it in silence, which is totally fine. That's something that you can do. Or they can defend themselves. And we're going to talk about something like this in this week, about how when you decide to skip all the steps of church discipline, skip the normal trial by jury, now you got to fight it out in public, and you're going to have to say things publicly that are unsavory, but sometimes you just have to do it. The reality is, like, a lot of this error, this kind of a perspective, it seeks to get you just to shut your mouth. Like, they're very uncomfortable with conflict, and the reality is that there's nothing wrong with public conflict depending on the situation. Depending on the situation. There are people in my life that I've got personal issues with that I've never told you who it is. You know what I mean? Because I'm trying to follow Matthew 18 to the best of my ability. And the reality is that I think that these people are unstable. So I think eventually they're going to try to publicly smear me and something like that. So I've kept my receipts, I've kept my screenshots, and I'm ready to go. If they want to do a public relations war, we'll do a public relations war, because the reality is I'm ready to go. You want to go, I'll go. It's like, imagine if you found yourself in prison, right? Like, you found yourself in prison. I know it's hard to believe. A Christian can go to prison, right? Like, the perspective that I think you should probably take in prison is like, I'll fight you, but I'm not going to go looking for fights, right? Like, if you want to fight me, I'll fight you, but I'm not going to start a fight with you. See, that's the reality. Like, this whole critical theory stuff in the SBC, they started this fight, and the reality is, like, if you want to fight it, that's totally fine. Don't fall for this, it's a unity thing, where it's like you can't actually have a public dialogue. You can't actually ever defend yourself. It's like these social justice warriors, this is what they specialize in. They specialize in smacking you in the mouth, and then if you defend yourself, then they cry out in pain, "Oh, you hit me!" Like, if you block their attack, and you knock their hand away, then they're going to cry as if you punched them in the face. These people are completely twisted. They're manipulators. That's just the bottom line. And so that's my perspective here, right? Like, I didn't start this social justice fight. I didn't go looking for this fight. I got called white supremacist for political opinion or whatever, and that's how I got into the fight. It's just that simple. That's how I got into the fight. And so I'm not dragging anyone through the mud, but the truth is that the Southern Baptist Convention has become liberal. That's a fact. That's something that we need to recognize and be honest about. And I don't want the name of Christ associated with liberal politics or with people-pleasing positions in the world. I don't want the name of Christ associated with that. And so I'm going to fight it. Tough luck. You know what I mean? That's the bottom line. It's just tough luck. Now, the other thing about a criticism like this that I think is amazingly interesting is that this criticism was levied at me on Gab, which, as you might know, is a public forum. And so I told this person, you know what? Cut the crap. I know you don't believe this. You just want me to stop fighting this critical race theory stuff. And he was so offended. How dare you say that? How dare you? And it's like, well, because you didn't follow Matthew 18. My contact information, my email address is readily available everywhere, and you decided to go public with a criticism of me without coming to me privately first. I don't have a problem with that, because what I said was public, and you are well within your right to confront me in the public square. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't have a problem with that, but you're pretending to have a problem with that, so maybe take your own advice. You see what I'm saying? Like, anyone who criticizes you like this publicly is full of it. It's full of it. They're okay with public criticism because they're doing it right now. I get this on YouTube all the time. Oh, how dare you? How dare you say this publicly? Matthew 18. I'm like, dude, you realize you're on a public forum telling me this, right? If you actually believe what you're saying, which I know you don't, but if you did, you would come to me privately. That's the bottom line. So, this is something you need to be ready for. You need to be able to defend this. And it's nonsense, obviously, but I just thought I'd give you my take on this kind of criticism so that you're ready to field this criticism when you decide to join the fight. I hope you found this video helpful. God bless. So the only remaining question is, when do you decide to do which strategy, right? Like, when do you keep it to yourself and just absorb the insult? And when do you kind of put the person on blast and fight back? And the way I think about this is it depends on who's at risk, right? Who's at stake. So in my life, like I said, there are some people that have that have sinned against me, and I've got something against them and stuff like that. And the ones that I haven't told about, they're really only involving me. It's a personal thing, and that's where I kind of draw that line. There's people involved, but not to the point where they're going to be hurt in the same way that I was. So I'm kind of absorbing that. But when it comes to like the critical race theory stuff, like these teachers are leading massive amounts of people astray. Like, these people have a lot of influence. People like Matt Chandler, Russell Moore, they're out there influencing tons of people, including people in your church, right? And so those kinds of refutations aren't like a personal slight or a personal insult. They have massive implications for the church. These people have their claws in your own community. As chances are, people have a Russell Moore book on their bookshelf and stuff like that. And so you've got to consider other people. You've got to consider loving your neighbor, loving your congregation. And if these people are going to start to lead the SBC convention astray publicly and bombastically and all this kind of stuff, then we actually need to stand for the truth publicly and bombastically and all this kind of stuff. That's how I think about it. But anyway, I just thought I'd share that to the end here.